right, Sophie and Layla, and this is their roadmap to success. Sit. Now, I think what was going on here is Layla is the new dog in the house, and I think that she came in trying to kind of assert herself. I think Lola is a little bit more of a passive, more sensitive dog, and a little bit on the submissive side. So I think she saw that and tried to be a little bit more vocal with her, and I think that she saw a new dog coming in, and she's just kind of more of a passive, laid-back sort of dog. And so I think it was a combination of things. Now, it may be a case of resource guarding. I could be reading this wrong. I'm not seeing anything in this session, and I've tested and probed quite a bit, like doing stuff like this and having one treat here between the two of them, and you see nobody's fighting, or if it was resource guarding, a lot of times that would trigger a response. And so I think this is just a misunderstanding. Now, if it is resource guarding, the video that's above this is what you want to do. We want to help her understand that when Lola approaches, nothing bad is going to happen. In fact, your situation is going to get better. Now, if it is what I think it is, yes, I can see see that right there, that body posture. She's kind of leaning towards me. She has difficulty wanting to sit near me because that puts her at a disadvantage. So basically, in this case, to help both dogs, I want the guardians to really focus on enforcing rules and boundaries consistently. It's going to help her see that the humans are in the leadership position, and also that there is structure and leaders in place so I don't have to assert myself. It's also going to help her feel more confident as the humans are taking care of it. When I have a bone, the humans are going to make sure that she doesn't approach me. One of the things a lot of people don't realize is growling is not aggression. Growling is the opposite of aggression. I'm giving you a warning. You're doing something I don't like. If you continue, I'm going to have to take it to the next level. And it is very natural for dogs to growl if they have something and another dog approaches. That's a way of saying, hey, back off. So if you have dogs that are eating, dogs should eat in a structured way. If you have multiple dogs together. So now you're sitting with your faces together. This would be the perfect picture, but my camera's over there. All right, so when we're feeding them, what I'd like you to start feeding them is in a structured way. The humans should eat first. Then I would feed her next because she is your senior dog. And while she's eating, she's not allowed to be within 10 feet of the eating area. And I put food in both bowls and don't let the dogs eat it. I use the escalating consequences to make the dogs walk away or to keep them at a distance. Then I sit back and I eat a couple chips or crackers, something you can eat in 5 or more bites. Dogs eat in the order of their rank, so it's important that humans eat first, so they are looked at as having eating privileges. Once I get done, then I'm going to invite Lola in, and I'm not going to let her in. When Lola goes and takes her first bite of her food, we want to assign a command word. So let's say her word is feast. When she takes her first bite, we're going to say feast for like 2 or 3 months, just for that first bite. So when she hears feast, there's food in her mouth. When she hears feast, there's nothing in her mouth. So it doesn't mean anything to Layla. It means something to Lola. Sophie, sorry. Doesn't mean anything to Sophie. Sorry, sweetheart. And so after a while, you'll be able to say feast, and Lola goes, that means that I get to go eat, and she just stays sitting there. When Lola's done, which means she walks away from her bowl. Now, sometimes she leaves food in her bowl. She used to be a grazer. I'm not a big fan of free feeding. I like to do it specifically. So when she walks away from her bowl, whatever's left in her bowl, pick up the bowl, dump the food out of the bowl, put the empty bowl back down. It's important to put the bowl back down. She's going to come and lick the bowl. Well, what happened? But when you walk away from your bowl, that's your way of saying you're done. Because in the wild, when she walks away, the next dog's going to eat that portion. So when she's done, we empty the bowl, put the bowl back down, and then she has to leave the room. When she's out of the room, then we invite Layla in. Layla comes in, and we might say chow when she takes her first bite. So after a while, now the dogs see that the humans are controlling the situation, and we're creating a command word for each dog. I like each dog to have a unique command word to eat, also to be released out of a stay. And that's something I'd like the guardians to practice. I teach both dogs how to do, is train the dogs to stay. If you don't have a good training video for that, make sure you message me and I can send you a link to a video of where I've taught people how to train a dog to stay. I teach it for the 3 Ds. First for duration, then for distance, then for distractions. So by breaking it down in individual steps makes it easier for the dog to understand. Also, when you're working with the dogs, if it's too difficult to work with them together, it's almost always faster to separate them and work with one dog at a time. Teach them both what you want them to behave, and then bring them together once they both know what's going on. It's much easier. Now, some of the rules we went over: not being allowed in the furniture, not having to sit before we go in or out of the door. We're not going to say sit over and over. We're going to say sit once. If she sits, then we're going to let Layla out, and Sophie doesn't get to sit. We walk away. We wait 1 minute, come back, and tell Sophie sit. She sits. As soon as she sits, that door opens. So she thinks she has a remote control in her butt. But if she doesn't sit, then we walk away for 2 minutes. Next time for 4 minutes. Next time for 8 minutes. So we have to keep increasing or doubling the length of time until she sits and then she gets her way. So we're going to withhold resources and she gets the reward for compliance. That gives her more motivation and reason to want to do what we want her to do. At first, do it with whatever direction they want. If they want to be outside, start it with them inside. Then do it with both directions. Next thing you can do is, or another rule, when the humans are eating in this dining area or the living area, I would say that dogs are not allowed to be on the carpet around the couches when people have food. The rest of them, they can come and go. But when people are in there with food, the dogs are not allowed to be within 7 feet of a human. That's very disrespectful. One of them sticking its heads through the other underneath. Let me see, not being allowed in the kitchen. And again, I use the third consequence for that to march the dog outside the kitchen. Also, the window at the door, window at the front. We have great windows that overlook the house, but we're kind of a split level, so the dogs kind of look down the street. That gives them the impression they're in a sentry position. So again, if it's at 3:10 and we know there's a whole bunch of kids that are going to be walking by, we're going to change our schedule so that we're able to correct the dogs by hissing the second they start to growl or do something inappropriate. Now, if Layla does continue to show aggression towards other dogs, I'd like the guardians to contact us and sign her up for our counter conditioning class so we can take care of that for once and for all. And she, from what I learned, spent the first 14 weeks of her life in a kennel, so she probably missed out on a lot of social development and social problem solving skills. Doesn't mean that your dog can't learn those, it's just you're going to have to put some time and effort into it, where normally dogs just learn that on their own. Let me see. So those are some of the rules we went over. I'd also like the guardians to start petting with a purpose and using passive training. So petting with a purpose is sit, sit. So I'm going to ask the dog to sit, come, lay down, or do whatever it is, and before I pet them. Now passive training is basically doing this. Come. So she came to me on her own. I didn't call her, but when she came to me, I said the word come and I gave her some affection. So this creates more of a positive association and makes her more inclined to want to come. Most of us only call our dog to come when we're end of playtime in the yard or at the park or whatever it is. So every time she comes, we pet her, and then she gets to go back to doing other stuff, makes her more inclined to want to do that in the future. I'd like the guardians to also give the dogs a naughty dog name for each dog. So when we're doing something wrong, we can call her Rufus or Layla or whatever the case may be. Lola. That was better. So, it caught me off guard. Sometimes things like that happen. That was probably just a, hey, you're getting too close, I'm going to maybe be possessive of this guy. So if that's the case, what we did, Lola, I'm going to make sure we bring her back over right away. As long as this dog is, I have my hand around her wrist, I want to make sure it doesn't escalate. But we want to immediately, Lola, bring her back right away. And I can pet her while we're doing that as well. So she sees, hey, when Lola approaches, I'm still getting attention. Lola, come here. Yeah. Now, Lola's moving away. Lola, come here. Which tells me that she's a little bit uncomfortable. So now the guardians ask, what can we do after a fight? So this would be a great time to take them out for a walk together. We're not going to do that now, but we want to make sure the last memory engram they have is of something positive with each other. And when we walk together, we're going to walk them next to each other. Neither dog is going to go in front. Nobody's going to be behind. We're going to let them go so that they're all feeling the same. Now, let me see, what else we went over? If she's a little flight or a little twitchy, so teaching the dogs new commands will help with both of their various problems. Again, one of them should be teaching them to stay. But go to YouTube. There's all sorts of exercises there where you can teach dogs how to bang and play dead, or balance a treat on their nose, or things like that. Especially tricks that cause the dog to develop a little bit of discipline and control. It's great. Now they're walking around each other, no problems. Her ears look good. She's nice and calm. Her body is relaxed. She's not staring. She's not targeting. She's not doing any things I mentioned in the above video. Watch that video, especially take note of the things that I talked about. The body language, the stiffness, the holding the breath, the staring, the hackles going up. When we see a combination of those, then I'm going to pay a little bit more attention to Layla to make sure that nothing bad happens. Let me see, structured feeding, we went over. Petting with a purpose and passive training seem really easy. Get into a habit of doing those. The leashing exercise, I would suggest practicing leashing them up. Don't narrate, so don't tell them you're leashing. Practice them with them separately. First step is just walking where the leash is. Anytime the dog walks in front of you, turn and walk away, sit down. Don't say no, just sit down. When the dog is completely calm, then we get up and we walk again to the leash. It'll keep on doing that until you can walk all the way to the leash with the dog staying behind you. Next step is reaching for it. When I can reach for it, the dog stays in a sit. Next up is when I go over there before I reach, I tell the dog to sit, then I reach. The dog gets up, I put it back, and I go sit down. I keep on boarding, and then we restart the whole process. And this is why it's helpful to do this at times when you don't have an intention of taking them for a walk. You do it once or twice, then you run out of time, you go back to watching TV or doing whatever you're doing. That's a good sit. Let me see, what else? If they do, like I said, if we want to introduce other dogs, maybe taking Layla out for a walk with the other dog, again, would be a nice way to introduce them. Let them experience each other first, then taking them to a yard or somewhere outside, preferably neutral territory, and maybe let one of the dogs, if I'm more worried about Layla, I might let the other dog off leash if I can read that other dog, and that other dog, if it's uncomfortable with Layla, will move away. And so we want to make sure that we facilitate a good meeting without forcing them to meet or things along those lines. Also, letting them sniff each other is really good. We want to make sure we do that. One thing the guardian noticed was, and I'll let you handle that, was that Layla likes to playing with Sophie on the top position. I like to see the dogs traded. One dog on the top for a while, then one on the bottom for a while. And watch when you're correcting. If you're correcting one dog and the other dog comes over, keep an eye on that second dog. Right? We just saw that right there. He was correcting the dog from getting off the couch, and I saw Layla get up and come over to her. We don't want Layla to think, I need your help with this. You can come and observe as long as you're being respectful, but we don't need you to come and correct. The humans have this situation under control. Thank you very much. So if we see one of the dogs is underneath, and they're both playing, that's okay. But if one of the dogs is underneath and trying to get away, then I'm going to intercede. Or if the play level gets too intense, I'm going to intercede. So right now the dog is looking out the window and making a little bit of a chortle. If somebody walking by, that's okay. We want our dogs to be alert if something's going on. But after 3 barks, you're taking it for granted or taking advantage of the situation. Let me see. I'm probably forgetting about some other things. Oh, for the dog bed, I would get a bigger dog bed, all flat. And the way that I train dogs to go to the dog bed is I take a treat, toss it on the dog bed. Come up with the name for the dog bed. When the dog touches it with its lips after it picks it up, say beach, or whatever the word is you want to use for that. First way I do is I toss it, let the dog go get it, and say the word beach. Second way I do it is when dogs are outside or doing something else, I leave one there, and I don't say anything. I just observe and wait. When one of the dog touches it, then I say beach. Third way is I bring the dog over, put in a sit or an LAY, pop the treat in their mouth, and say the word beach. This is to entice them to go there. After a while, the dog will start hanging out there on their own. When they do, when the dog goes to the dog bed, if you don't have a treat, just say the word beach. Or get up and walk over and pet the dog and say beach. If you have a treat, you can go over and give the dog the treat and say beach. That's even better. But at first, it's to entice them to go, then to reward them for going. If you do that enough, they'll get pretty good at it. One of the exercises we went over was the focus exercise. And again, message me if you can't remember how to do that. Remember, it's 1 second, 1 second at first for all 10 or 12 treats. I'd like each guardian to be doing this with each dog once a day for about 10 to 12 treats for each dog in each rep sitting. More practice, the faster. Come is your word. And then after the dog's really staring at you pretty good, then we're going to go 1 second, 2 seconds, just on the second movement. And then for all 12 treats. Then the next person does it, all 12 treats for the second movement, 2 seconds. Then maybe we go to 3 seconds. Work our way up to 20 seconds. Where you're doing this, make sure you do it in different parts of the house. And then eventually, once you get to 20 seconds anywhere in the house, then do it outside, but go back to 1 second. And only do it outside when there's no other dogs or squirrels. It's outside alone is a lot of distractions. The idea is to gradually pour back in the distractions and help the dog continue practicing what we want amongst distractions, but very progressively so they're able to do it. And then this way, if we see the dog, the dog's holding its breath and staring, we can say focus, both dogs look up at us, and we've taken them out of thinking about what they were going to do. Here. Come here, Lola. All right, Lola, come here. Come here, I don't want to pull you. Come here. All right, this is Lola and Layla's roadmap to success. Remember, everything you do trains your dog. Only sometimes you meet it.